The storm of Poseidon. But now Poseidon, lord of the earthquake, who was on his way back from his visit to the Ethiopians, observed Odysseus from distant mountains. The sight of Odysseus sailing over the sea enraged him. He shook his head and said, "Damnation! I'd only to go to Ethiopia for gods to change their minds about Odysseus. And there he is, close to the land where he is destined to bring his long ordeal to an end. Nevertheless, I mean to let him have a bellyful of trouble yet." With that, he marshalled the clouds and, seizing his trident in his hand, stared up the sea. He roused the stormy blasts of every wind that blows and covered land and water alike with a canopy of cloud. Darkness swooped down from the sky. The east wind and the south wind and the tempestuous west wind clashed together, and the north wind came from the upper sky, rolling a great wave of terror in front of it. Odysseus's knees shook, and his spirit failed. In anguish, he communed with his great heart. "Poor wretch that I am! What will become of me after all? I fear the goddess prophesied all too well when she told me I should have my full measure of misery before I reach my native land. Every word she said is coming true. At Zeus's command, the whole sky is heavy with clouds, the sea is seething, squalls from every quarter hurtle together. If only I could have met my fate and died the day the Trojans' hordes let fly at me with their bronze spears over Achilles' corpse. I should at least have had my burial rites, and the Achaeans would have spread my fame abroad. But now it seems I was predestined to an ignoble death." As he spoke, a mountainous wave, advancing with awesome speed, crashed down upon him from above and whirled his raft around. The rudder was torn from his hands, and he himself was tossed off the raft. At the same moment, the warring winds joined forces in one tremendous gust, which snapped the mast in two and flung the sail and the half-deck far out into the sea. For a long time, the water kept him under, weighed down by the clothes which the goddess Calypso had given him. He could not quickly fight his way up against the downrush of that mighty wave. But at last, he reached the air and spat out the bitter brine that poured down his face. Exhausted though he was, he did not forget his raft, but struck out after it through the surf, scrambled up, and sitting in the middle of it, avoided the finality of death. The heavy seas thrust him with the current this way and that, like the north wind at harvest time, tossing about the fields a ball of thistles that had stuck together. The gust drove his raft hither and thither over the sea. Now the south wind would toss it to the north to play with, and now the east would leave it for the west to chase. Poseidon, the earth shaker, sent Odysseus another monstrous wave. Grim and menacing, it curled above his head, then hurtled down and scattered the long timbers of the raft, as a boisterous wind will toss a deep heap of chaff and scatter it in all directions. Odysseus scrambled onto one of the beams and, sitting astride like a rider on horseback, cast off the clothes that the divine Calypso had given him. Then he wound the veil around his waist and, with arms outstretched, plunged headlong into the sea and boldly struck out. With an angry roar, the great seas were battering at the rocky land, and all was veiled in spray. There were no coves, no harbours that would hold a ship, nothing but headlands jutting out, sheer rock and jagged reefs. A tremendous wave swept him forward to the rugged shore, where his skin would have been torn off and his bones broken, had not bright-eyed Athena put it into his head to grab hold of a rock as he was swept in. He clung there, groaning, while the great waves swept by.